Brotherhood of the Cross and Star, also known as the Christ Universal Spiritual School of Practical Christianity, is the new kingdom of God on earth, which was revealed to Prophet Daniel in the book of Daniel chapter 2, verse 44. Brotherhood of the Cross and Star is the biblical proverbial mustard seed, whose insignificant genesis in Biakman land, a backwater village in the remotest area of Cross River State of Nigeria, has metamorphosed into a universal movement with the highest spiritual magnitude, made possible by its tenacity, truthful consistency, and the charismatic personality of the founder and leader, Olumba Obo. Brotherhood of the Cross and Star is not a worldly organization, but the new kingdom of God instituted and governed by God Himself. It is the assembly of the true children of God, who have been redeemed by God through the precious and sinless blood of our Lord Jesus Christ. Brotherhood means oneness and harmony of all creations under the divine fatherhood of God, which has come to prevail forever. Brotherhood of the Cross and Star is open to all, irrespective of age, gender, religion, and race, who accept to confess their sins and be baptized by immersion in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. According to the sole spiritual head of the universe, leader Olumba Obo, coming into the new kingdom of God is by predestination. Except one is predestined to be a member, one can never be. This is confirmed in the Gospel according to St. Matthew, chapter 28 from verse 18 to 20. The Gospel according to St. John, chapter 17, verse 6. The letter of Paul the Apostle to Romans, chapter 18, verse 28 to 31. The letter of Paul the Apostle to the Romans, chapter 9, from verse 23 to 27, and Revelation, chapter 17, verse 14. The aims and objectives of Brotherhood of the Cross and Star is to love one another as taught by our Lord Jesus Christ and demonstrated by the Holy Father, leader Olumba Obo, and His Christ, His Holiness Olumba Obo, in line with the scriptures and the Gospel according to St. Matthew, chapter 22 from verse 37 to 38, which says, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. These two commandments is the law and the prophets." The new kingdom of God on earth also has the mandate to teach the dying world the undiluted word of God in the practical demonstration, and to encourage the spirit of perfect love, peace, and unity of all sects with the aim of achieving the brotherhood of man and the universal fatherhood of God. To a greater extent, Brotherhood of the Cross and Star caters for the needs of sinners while converting them to the path of righteousness through its doctrine. Brotherhood of the Cross and Star is the light of the world and the salt of the earth. Wherefore, having received a kingdom which cannot be moved, let us have grace, whereby we may serve the Almighty God acceptably with reverence and godly fear. Honor all men, love the brotherhood, fear God, and honor the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Thank you, Father.
In a twinkle of an eye, we are now the powerful remnant. We've been fortified spiritually by leader Olumba Obu, the modern of Noah, his brother.
Hello, beloved viewers of Starcross TV. Good evening and welcome to Starcross Television. It has been an interesting week and it has been a wonderful holiday for us here on this program. And of course, when you see me, just know that we are talking about legal matters. Welcome to our very program where we talk about legal practitioners, legal issues, anything legal that you know that you have a case and you don't know how to handle it, you have issues, you don't know how to go about with it. This is the program that will put you in the right direction. And from this program you get to know your rights as a person, you get to know your right as an organization, you get to know your right as an individual, a citizen, whichever one. Anyways, welcome, and my name is Joy Dambo, and of course this is the Regnum Continuous Legal Education. And today we have an interesting topic that is very interesting and educating, that I feel that you shouldn't change your at all for any reason, because today we are going to be impacting something in you that you will need definitely in the future or even presently now. Okay, so my name is Joy Dambo once again, and I'm here to officially introduce the legal practitioners, those that the Father has given the wisdom, you know, to work on this particular topic, those that the Father has embedded with the knowledge of the law, and I'm here to also learn from them as usual. So if you have your questions while the program is going on, feel free to call us in. The lines are open, and as well you can as well drop your questions on our YouTube platform. Tell a friend to tell a friend that Starcross TV is live and we are talking about legal education here. So officially, let me introduce my guest here in the studio, and of course I'm starting with Barrister Kenneth. Good evening, sir. You're welcome.
Yeah, good evening.
How are you doing today?
I'm fine.
You look so happy today.
Yeah, I get it.
All right. Yes, sitting next to him is Barrister Osim. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now, guess what? We also have someone very important to join us all the way from UK. He is on our Zoom platform, and I'm going to be introducing him. He is Doctor, I think that's how he's been addressed, Dr. Paul Eshebe. Good evening, sir.
I'm not a doctor yet, you know, and I'm actually in Abuja right now.
Okay. Well, we're talking about, yes.
You get qualified.
Thank you so much for that. Yes, because he's talking about the legal practice in the UK, how the system in UK is being run, and that of US, if I'm not mistaken.
I can take US if Dr. Sema is not coming on, but I believe that he is coming on the show. I'll concentrate on UK for now.
Hopefully when we see him.
I'll concentrate on UK for now, but if you have any question on US.
Of course, thank you so much. We'll be so happy to have your knowledge all the way from, you know, Abuja, you know, in conjunction with UK and all of that. Thank you so much. You're welcome this evening. Yes, without wasting much time, we're just going to go straight into the discussion of the day. Today we want to talk about legitimacy. We're talking about legitimacy, legitimation, and wills. Yes, when you hear wills, you know, when I was small, we always talk about wills. Whenever somebody wants to die, the first thing they think about is will. What is his will? What is his will? So today we want to talk about legitimacy, legitimation, and will. So I'm going to start. Yeah, there are so many big grammars here, so we need it to be, you know, elaborated or break it into pieces to the layman's understanding and knowledge. What is legitimacy?
We are forgetting something here.
Okay.
We are supposed to start with our theme song.
Oh, thank you so much for reminding me. I'm so sorry. Yes, the lawyers have, you know, put up a theme song.
And the theme song usually goes like this.
Okay.
It's a principal power, Olumba Obu.
Principal power, Olumba Obu.
A principal power, Olumba Obu.
Principal power, Olumba Obu.
Is a principal power, power, Father Lumbabu, principal power, Olumba Obu.
Thank you so much,
yes.
sir. All right.
You can see why I'm happy.
Yes, it's very obvious.
Yes.
Okay, let's go straight into the business of the day while we are here seated. Now, what is legitimacy? In the layman's understanding, the word, if there is a synonym for legitimacy, you can as well bring it up so we can understand what we are talking about today. What is legitimacy?
Legitimacy, according to the Black's Law Dictionary, is a status of a person born within a legal marriage or which is acquired by performing other means by the parent. Then when you want to talk about the layman understanding of the word legitimacy, this means that a child who is born within a lawful marriage, that is to say the parent, the father and the mother were married before this child was born. The marriage may be dissolved at a point, but at that period this child was being conceived or was put to bed. It should be that they were still in marriage. So that is the understanding of legitimacy.
Okay, sir. Would you want to add something to that?
Yes, I think he has he has answered basically most, but I think legitimacy as it pertains to a child is the status of the child that the parents had complied with the law of marriage or the law of marriage as it concerns the place where that marriage was celebrated. What we call in legal parlance the lex loci celebrationis. So once the father and the mother had complied with the rule of marriage according to the law of the place, you know, there's marriage under native law or native law and custom. There is marriage under the act. Then there is marriage by people on sea. That is people like sailors, people like the navy, the army, people that those people that are not stable. There is also a way which they get married. So, but once they have complied with the law concerning their marriage, what we now call lex loci celebrationis, and then a child is either conceived or is born during that period. Yes, it will be taken that child is legitimate. So legitimacy is just a status that follows the child when it comes to child support. It follows the child when it comes to the parents benefiting from that child under the law. The child benefiting from the parents under the law, and the parents benefiting from the child under the law. That is what we call, that status is what we call legitimacy.
Okay, thank you very much. So and now I would like to ask, I think subsequently when you're talking, maybe you might address it, but since Barrister Sim he started by saying couples are being joined together, or anybody that is being joined together, and the period of time when they give birth, that's what they call legitimacy. Now a situation whereby there is this couple, but they have not been binded together officially like marriage, and then they give birth, but they are together. What kind of situation would you call that?
That is cohabitation. What you are talking about now is cohabitation. It's just that under the Marriage Act, I understand where you are going. So let me help you. Under the Marriage Act, the law is very clear under the Marriage Act that when two parties are living under the same roof for a period of 7 years, and they have not married, they have not gone to the altar, there is a presumption of marriage. There is a presumption. So if those parents are living under the same roof for 7 years, that's what the law says, and they have not gone to, and the pastor did not till they do us part, because those are the operative words. Even if they didn't do that, but they have been cohabiting together for 7 years, the law presumes marriage. But until that period of time, those 7 years come, then that is what we call cohabitation. So when the parents are cohabiting, then that child is not legitimate under the law. And the only way that child can be legitimate under the law is when we come to legitimation, where we'll even mention some sections of the Constitution that they say don't discriminate and all that. But having complied with the law of marriage, lex matrimonium, they have not. That is cohabitation. But it is only the law now that will impute marriage after that period of 7 years has elapsed.
Okay.
Yes, that is
and
it.
Then what happens when they get themselves divided? Because we've seen situations whereby they will live for a period of, sometimes they can even be in a relationship for 7 years, 8 years, 9 years, and then at the end of the day they still don't end up together, if the law is presuming marriage for those set of people.
At 7 years when they are living together under the same roof.
But we've seen issues like
but
that.
I say under the same roof.
Yes.
And the law even says when it comes to when we'll be talking about divorce, because maybe at the next topic when we are coming, the law even is now even talking that if both of them are not living under the same roof for 1 year, that they can an order of divorce can be granted. So the operative part is living under the same roof. Is for that 7 years, or if they are not living under the same roof for 1 year, that it can be a ground that the marriage has irretrievably broken down. But if they have lived for 7 years and they are still living under the same roof for more than that 7 years, that is when, if the man now says, I didn't marry you, the law will now tell him, both of you are husband and wife. Once there is evidence to the fact that they have been living under that same roof together for 7 years or more than. So, but if they decide to go their way, it was just an imputation of marriage. So if at the end of the day they decide to go their way, they will not go to the court to seek for divorce. Because there was no formal marriage between them. But if at the end of the day they continue to pretend after that period, and the man wants to misbehave, the law says that the court will stop that man, or the law will stop that man from misbehaving with that woman, because there is an imputation of marriage. But if the woman left or the man left and they are no longer together under the same roof, then that arrangement cannot hold. Yes, that particular arrangement I'm painting.
Also, sorry, addressing that question you asked, you said if both parties were together and then maybe for that 7 years and above, and at the end of the day, the marriage was not successful, but there was an issue, that is to say a child has been born. That child remains legitimate, because during that period that both of them were together, it is assumed or presumed that they were together. So now what the court looks at is the interest of the child. So you will not say because the parties were together and later on they were not, and then the child of that issue of that their relationship is now illegitimate. No, you cannot. It's still legitimate since they were together. Because from the definition, it is that when, although in this case they've not done the proper legal marriage, but because of the interest of the child, you cannot name that child an illegitimate child
when they have not been officially married.
They've not officially,
and this is what they call presumed marriage.
I want to for the first time disagree with my with my counsel, because the issue of the interest of the child, to my mind, this my own opinion now, the issue of the interest of the child is separate from the marriage. Remember the definition of marriage. It says it's the coming together of one man and one woman to the exclusion of all others. Lord Penzance, in the case of Hyde and Hyde, that is how he defined marriage, which means that even the children of the marriage are not part of the marriage. So we are looking at the man and the woman here. We are not looking at the children. Children come in when it comes to custody and maintenance. That is when the best of interest of the child comes in. But the issue is their marriage, is their relationship legitimate? Can it be called a marriage? The answer is in the negative. You understand?
Yes.
So if both of them are cohabiting, they are cohabiting. But the only issue is that whatever they are doing, the law will not allow it to affect the children.
Okay.
That is the Child Rights Act. And then the Constitution will not allow it, like he has rightly pointed out. But the issue between that man and that woman, have they complied with the law? The answer is a big capital no.
No.
Okay, but
Yes.
I will still go for that. That's my stance.
Okay.
Where I am looking at it is, I'm not talking
Okay.
about a statutory marriage in
Okay.
this situation.
Okay.
I'm looking at traditional marriage or customary marriage.
Yes.
Okay.
Like for instance now,
Okay.
the
Okay.
Igbo society
Okay.
or Igbo native law and custom.
Okay.
You know, there are children that are born which their parents
Okay.
are not their natural parents, but those children are still legitimate. For
Okay.
instance,
All right.
in a situation where a man,
Are you talking about the woman to woman marriage?
no, I'm
Egu and Meribe.
coming. No. I'm coming in a situation where a man, a father of maybe children, does not have a male child,
Okay.
and then he now maybe talks to one of the daughters to stay without being married,
All right.
so that
Okay. Yes.
he will,
yes, it's been practiced.
she will produce a male
A
child,
child. Okay.
for him.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
Now,
Okay.
in that situation, this lady can be in the father's house without getting married to anybody,
Okay.
and takes in, and then the child that will be delivered by her, which will now bear the name of her father, is legitimate.
But you,
cannot say such a child is illegitimate.
but you remember that a native law and custom should not be contrary to public policy.
Okay.
You remember that?
All right. Thank you so much.
So that one is
Anyways.
contrary. That one is exactly like the woman to woman marriage, which we say is contrary to public policy. I understand where he's coming from.
Okay.
I was thinking he wants to tell me that if a man had engaged a woman in native law and custom, and then shortly after he had gone into the woman's family, given a bottle of drink or whatever they use in starting, and they say, okay, later come back and complete the traditional rites. In the process, they had a problem. And then during that short period that the man had come into the family to drop something, and then the parents say, okay, go and greet your to-be husband. In the process, something happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then there is a child out of that, go
Out
and
of that,
visit.
yes.
Go and visit. Now, what I was thinking he wants to say is that between that period and 10 months time, from that date, from that time to 10 months, and a child is born, that child is taken to be the son of that man that came into the family, whether or not it is that man that impregnated that lady.
Okay.
That was what I think he was going to. He will be taking that in as much as somebody has come into the family and is performing traditional rites.
Right.
That whatever child that woman is giving birth to,
He has the rights to the
he
child.
has a right to the child as his own child.
Okay.
That is what I thought he was going to. But bringing
Okay.
that example is very far-fetched.
Okay, thank you. So it simply means if he has not come to make any move, he has not come to do anything, and then the lady has that child for him.
Yes, that child is illegitimate.
Exactly.
Clearly is legitimate.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
All right.
Don't worry, we'll come to
Constitution
constitution.
said there's no illegitimate child.
Yes, we will. We will come to that.
Okay,
We'll
no
come to that.
problem. So now let's go into the rules that are governing legitimacy. Now, what are the rules that are governing legitimacy?
I think we have already discussed that in the process of answering all these questions.
Okay, yeah. So
Yes.
for maybe some people don't know,
Yes.
but being
Yeah,
that
yeah,
since
It's
we've
the
been
rule that
arguing
is
about
the
it.
rule that is governing legitimacy is very simple.
Okay.
That the two parties have complied with the lex loci celebrationis.
Okay.
That is the law of the place where they are, and they are getting married. They must have complied with that law, whatever is the law there.
Okay.
Like if you go to the north, I was surprised that when I was in Abuja, then I used to worship at Karubetel at Abuja. I was surprised that those people, those Fulani people, all they do is to beat you. They will go and bring koboko, you will lie down, you are the man.
Wow.
They will flog you. Honestly, I pity the young man. They flog this man almost to death with this cow cane, cow tail that they make a cane out of. That's all. So once the man goes there,
Before he can
yes,
get
at that
married
carol,
to-
yes, they just put him on the table
Wow.
The woman will be standing there and they use that koboko. You know that koboko
so,
now?
Yes, so you think that's legal?
But that is the law of the that is the Lex Loci celebrationist we are talking about. That is their law, the law of their marriage. That you just come, don't give a kobo, just lie down, they'll flog you 100. By the time you survive the 100 strokes,
so the law agrees to that.
You take your wife. So at least I witnessed that.
Yes.
So they must have complied with that law. And then any child that is born, shortly after the man is totally clean,
yes,
flogged tooth, and then he didn't die, any child that now comes out of that relationship is legitimate.
So
that
what
is for the
happens
Fulani.
if the man dies in the process?
Then somebody will bring some other person and flog.
It's not repugnant
okay. All right. I think we also have a third party here in our conversation today. So I'm also going to engage him to also put his mouth in this conversation because it's becoming really interesting. And please, beloved audience, if you have any question pertaining to this topic of discourse today, feel free to always ask your question. Our phone lines are open, and of course our YouTube platform is there. Share the link, tell a friend to tell a friend that StarCross TV is live and we are discussing legal matters. So now moving over to your Grace, Paul, Eshebe. I don't know if you're there, if you can hear me. I would also like you to tell us the rules governing legitimacy in UK for our audience that are in UK, for those of them that are there to know what's happening in UK, how it's being done over there. Please unmute yourself. Can you hear me? Unmute yourself, please.
Okay, so mute now.
Yes, we can hear you now. Yes, we can hear you.
Good evening to you, madam, and good evening to my colleagues there in the studio, and good evening to everyone listening in the audience. Thank you very much for having me on to hear my views on this very interesting topic. Now, when you're talking about legitimacy, wills, or legitimization, there's some sort of historical background to this.
Okay.
You find that when I was studying law in the UK in the 90s, family law then was just about 30 years old. So you find that even in developed countries, the family law is only just dating back to 50 years. However, what used to happen within family settings and the rules governing legitimacy was under what you call the common law, which that's been going on for centuries. Under the common law, what used to happen, which is virtually, are you with me?
Yes, I'm with you.
Yes, under the common law, there was this distinction of, say, a child born during dependency of the marriage between the husband and the wife, and they term those children as legitimate. And then children that were born outside the marriage, maybe the woman had a baby before she got married, or a married man had an affair and had a child outside the marriage. Those children were termed illegitimate. And also, in terms of, say, giving wills, there were so many rules in those days that says, oh, a legitimate child cannot inherit from either of the parents. Now, what's happened over the years, over the years, that there's some events that have happened that have necessitated the laws, and the way we view things to change. One of the major, even before I go there, very rich people in the olden days under the common law, very, very rich people, they are prone to having mistresses, That's why the word concubine came about. And what they used to do, because they cannot put those children in their wills, what will happen to those children after they are gone, they used to have so many things, even the law today of wills, what they call secret trusts. Secret trust would be, oh, I know I have a child with my mistress. I'm a married man. My mistress' name is called Jane. I've named my son, John. So when I'm doing my wills, I can name my very good friend and say, oh, I gave X amount of money to my dear friend, Jonathan, for the purpose I have communicated to him. So my will, very old people used to do this in those days. They will give to the children they attempt to be illegitimate, but without disclosing them. There's also what you call the half secret trust. So it to be the same thing. I'm a very rich man. I'm a married man. I've had an affair with a mistress. I have 2 kids with a mistress, and I want to put them in my will. I can now say, oh, I hereby give to my dear friend Jonathan X amount of money, to cater for the purpose which I have disclosed in my letter of so dates, So all those things used to happen. But what's now happened is that, especially significant things that happened during the First and the Second World War, a lot of men died in those wars. They were conscripting young men to go to war. Some of them were like 18, 19, 20. So after this, especially after the Second World War, 1945, a lot of women became widows.
Okay.
A lot of women became widows. And a lot of young men had babies, while they were being posted to different places, and they were not dead. So what do we do with the children that have been born by soldiers that have gone to war? What will you do with the children of married couples that their husbands are not dead? So there were so many events, and then at the same time, lifestyle were changing. So you find this necessitated a lot of discussions. I think the first major thing they did was to pass what they call, in the UK, the one-parent family law, whereby, when a woman have a child, the child is recognized, and the woman can give that child a family name. Without, when it comes to father, you can put dash in it. But these questions of legitimacy still goes on and on and on about, especially to do with inheritance, who is going to look after the child. And then in the UK, the first major thing that happened in 1976, that's what you call the Legitimacy Act.
Okay.
And that act tended to remove that distinction between, a child that was born during marriage is called legitimate, the one that was born outside that marriage is called illegitimate. That act tended to remove that distinction and just emphasize on the child that has been born. So after that act, really, that B word that people used to say a lot in Nigeria that are really, and these people, I don't want to mention, BAS, the red T, that word actually does not have any existence anymore after that 1976 act. So you find that in the Western world, but I didn't want to use that word on TV, So that word it's a meaningless word now after the 1976 act. So recognition was given to more just a child. And then further after that in UK, you now have what they call the Family Reform Law Act 1987. Okay. And what that one did was to dismantle completely, any form of differences between, say, legitimate and illegitimate has to do with wills. The emphasis is now, it doesn't matter if you're a married man, if you have a child outside, provided it has been proven that you are the father of that child, then the child can inherit like any child of the family. So that child have the same rights as a child of the family. So for example, you'll be married for like 20 years, you have 5 children, after the 15 years of marriage, you had an affair with somebody, you have a child, the child is now 5 years old, that child that is now 5 years old have the same rights as your 4 or 5 children you have in your family home. So at this moment in time, that is the position. Now, you also have various laws that also been brought in. Okay. You also have various laws. So just on one of the issues that was talked on in the studio earlier on, at this moment in time, I think it's the same law in the UK, definitely in some states. I'm qualified in New York, and UK, so most of the time I talk about New York, but most of the laws are like similar. You'll find that in a family setting, in a family setting, So you have husband and wife living together as married couple, and somehow, the wife got impregnated by somebody else. The position of the law is that a child of the family is presumed to be held, to be sired by the father, by the husband. So what does that supposed to mean in real life? You have John and Jane are married together. Somewhere along they've been married 5 years, 6 years. They've had maybe 1 or 2 kids between them. Somewhere along the line, Jane strayed and got pregnant for somebody else. When that child is born, because the child was born within the marriage setting, that child is presumed to be the child of the husband, unless there is a strong evidence that the child was sired by somebody else. So you find, yes, you find that, so what that also does is that once there's a family setting, there's some protection in the law that binds, everyone and stops other people from interfering in that family to say, oh, even though you're married, but that child is mine. Because before you even say that, the presumption is that the husband is the father, unless the husband says, no, I'm not the father, So at this moment in time, you'll find that as we're speaking today, as of today, there is no such thing really as legitimate and illegitimate anymore, because there have been so many laws that have now been put in place, whereas what you find nowadays is just one issue and one issue only, the interest of the child, So yeah. So basically that's the general overview. There are some cases, there are some cases that have been very, very interesting, that's happened, There's one for you to see how forceful this legislation and the legal process have been. There's a very famous tennis star, in the UK. And let me just put his name down. He's German, but he was based in the UK. A very famous tennis star. So he's married. One day he went to the restaurant to eat with his friends at the restaurant. Somehow, nobody knows how it happened. He found himself flirting with the waitress. They went downstairs. He said he was going to the toilet. They went down. There's a broom cupboard somewhere. Between two of them, they went to the cupboard and some acts took place. After the act took place, less than 2 years' time, maybe 9 months later, the girl became pregnant and tried to contact this star to say, oh, during our encounter so night in my restaurant, a child have resulted. The guy said, no way, I'm not accepting it, because he was a married man. Eventually, that case went to court, and he was ordered to do DNA tests. Another thing is that, a lot of photographs, photographic evidence is not really strong. If you see that child, it was a splitting image of this guy. So when the DNA came, they said, the DNA shows this child is yours. Whether you are married or not, you have to look after this child until the child comes the age of 18. Even in some states in America, it's 21. So the reason why I gave that example, that our viewers, when they're listening, I know they've heard so many things, they've had so many assertions about legitimate and not legitimate. The reason why I elaborated on it is to let everybody that is listening know that that distinction does not really exist in reality anymore. So there is no child, even in Nigeria is the same, in most parts of the world now, that they use the B word, or they say, oh, because you are not born during marriage, you cannot inherit from your father or from your mother. That does not exist anymore, really. So the process of this, our discussion, is just to enlighten, ourselves and the viewers about what used to happen in the past, and where we are today. So it's just like a man that climbed 1,000 steps, you start from one. So if anybody have listened to this conversation and there have been distinctions about, legitimate and illegitimate children, but I just want most people to realize that distinction does not really, it's not really applicable in these modern times anymore because of so many laws that we put in place to protect, child and children born whether in marriage or outside marriage.
Outside marriage. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate
your explanation. It was really, really indeed elaborating for those of you that have been paying attention. Well, I would like to ask, because he made mention of legitimacy and illegitimacy and all of that. We started and we're talking about legitimacy, who is a legitimate child and who is not a legitimate child, and so on. So I would like to know the parts. I think he made mention, but I would like you to re-emphasize on the parts that governs someone being illegitimate.
Well, when it comes to is one who was born out of wedlock.
Okay.
That he has explained.
Yes.
The steps, the various steps until when we got here. He's talking about where we are now.
Yeah, because he was actually saying there is nothing like illegitimate or legitimate
as at now.
Yes.
But then before now, who is an illegitimate child is one that was born out of wedlock in one of the circumstances that we painted. In one of those circumstances that we painted, the father and the mother are cohabiting. There was no form of marriage, either of native law of custom or of statutory between them, and then the child was conceived and born under that situation. That child is illegitimate. As at when those things used to occur. But now I think when we have now moved to this state, to this stage, a lot of things, a lot of water has passed under the bridge. There are now laws that say don't discriminate. A good example is Section 42 of the 1999 Constitution of Nigeria. It says that no child shall be discriminated upon by circumstances of his birth. But the fact that that child, if you want to look at it traditionally, whether he is legitimate or illegitimate, you will find out that that child is illegitimate. But now the law now says don't discriminate. You understand? It's just like under the Igbo land. Then there was something we used to hear, the Osu caste system. Osu is an Osu. The person is actually born, but it's not being called into. He cannot be a king. He is not called into any line of authority because he is an Osu. You understand what I'm saying? So those things used to exist, but under the circumstances, under the 1999 Constitution, Section 42 of that Constitution, subsection 2, Section 42, subsection 2, is actually what talks about that. You find out that that child cannot be discriminated upon because he's an Osu. But it doesn't mean that that thing didn't used to exist. So when we talk about an illegitimate child, we are looking at a situation where we discourage parents, parties, male and female children from indulging in acts that will bring about a child that doesn't conform to the lex loci celebrationis. Because when it comes to the child, like Barrister Osim already pointed out, when it comes to their child, the best interest of the child and the non-discrimination laws will apply to the child. And that was why I distinguish between custody and maintenance and inheritance from the two parties who are getting married, which I said is a coming together of the man and the woman to the exclusion of all others, as defined by Lord Penzance in the case of Hyde and Hyde. So there is a distinction here between the man and the woman doing their thing and the child coming in to witness what was being done. So for when it comes to the child, the laws protect. But when it comes to the man and woman, it is either they will now live out the relationship to that point when I talked about 7 years, and then there is imputation of marriage, or along the line they now have to go to the parents of the child as is the law, and then perform what is expected of them. Yes.
Okay, so after that being said, and I'm sure we all understand what's legitimacy, illegitimacy, illegal, and so on, when it has to do with a child, So yes, illegitimate child and legitimate child. So those things are not in vogue anymore, according to Barrister Paul. Yes, he said they don't exist anymore, and of course I believe we are all standing in one voice to that.
Yes.
So yes, after that being said, yeah, I would like to ask here, what is legitimation? Because our topic today is legitimacy, legitimation, and will. So what is legitimation?
Yeah. Legitimation is the act of making a person who was illegitimate to become legitimate.
Oh, okay, still in the part of where we're talking about
Yes.
illegitimate.
Yes.
Okay, to become legitimate.
Yes,
Okay,
legitimation
okay.
is just that process.
Okay.
Providing legitimacy.
Okay.
For instance, that section 42, subsection 2 of the 1999 Constitution is providing legitimacy to the child.
Okay.
You understand?
Yes.
Yes.
So now we have different ways of carrying out or going about this legitimation. Like the first one there is subsequent marriage. Like what we were saying before, the 7 years relationship, and then at the end of the day, maybe there was an issue in that relationship, there was a child, and then along the line, the marriage could not hold. So this child now is presumed to be illegitimate as of then, not today. Then now, for you to make this child to become legitimate, when you now go back to marry the mother.
The mother.
Yes. So that is subsequent marriage.
Okay.
Now, in that marriage that has been celebrated between the mother of that child and the father of that child, automatically the child now becomes legitimate. That is one. Then the second point is acknowledgement. And under acknowledgement, we have what is called naming ceremony.
Okay.
Yes. Like now, a child was born, maybe the father was not known or was not seen, then the child was there, but at a point, the father of the child comes to, conduct a naming ceremony of the child. Then, by that act of doing that, he has now approved that this is his own child, and then the child now becomes legitimate. But that the act of naming ceremony there is rebutable, because now in the case of Akerele versus Balogun, such a situation happened whereby the man was married to another woman and then has children from that other woman. Then he now has affairs with another person, and then in the process there was a child that came from that relationship. Now the man secretly went to conduct this naming ceremony of the child outside his own house. He did not do it in his own house, being that he's afraid for the wife in the house not to know about. They're now going to conduct this naming ceremony outside his house. It was now proved that the man did not acknowledge that that is a child. So even though he has conducted a naming ceremony, since it was not done in his house openly for the wife and everybody to see, then it means there's something inside the.
So then which name is the child bearing? If yes, it's not been acknowledged.
He did it, but the way he goes about it did not conform with the way he would have done the naming ceremony. Because just like in brotherhood now, you have a child, after 8 days, you go for child blessing. Then in that child blessing, it is expected that your family, your friends, your relations, maybe your choir, your Bethel members should be there to be happy. But in a situation where you now take the child blessing to somewhere, maybe you are here, you have years in Calabar, you domicile here in Calabar, you now take it to you or Lagos, and did it there without even informing anybody. There is that presumption that that
it
child
negatives the,
thank you, the naming ceremony.
So what was that word, negatives?
It's in the negative. That is it rebuts. It's a rebuttal.
Oh, okay.
And then to add to what he has said, let us paint the situation where a woman had a child, and then there was disagreement between him and the man who is supposed to be the father of the child. Just like Dr. Paul Barrister Paul was trying to paint, that kind of picture.
Yeah.
And then this woman has been with this child, and the man was not forthcoming. This other man, let's use that as picture and paint it. That football star that did that thing at that restaurant is not forthcoming.
Yes.
Now we are now saying that legitimation can occur to that child. And how legitimation can occur to that child is for if that woman can go into a subsequent marriage. If he now gets a man and then they get married, you understand?
Yes.
And that man now acknowledges that child as his own child. You understand?
Yes.
Even since that football star said, I'm not the father, some other person can come by virtue of marriage between him and the mother of this child, can now come and say, this is my child. They take him home. You understand? The subsequent marriage, that is the first act. The second marriage is now, he now gives him a name, and then acknowledges he's the father. You say that is also a way of legitimation, apart from the law saying that nobody should be discriminated against. A subsequent marriage between two parties where the child is, let's call him a foundling, because under that circumstances, so foundling, what they would have called a bastard. He said there's no such word, which it's over. In fact, I don't even hear people calling people that kind of name again. He is right, but now let's assume it's a foundling, or nature born, because those were some of the names that they used to call bastards. Nature born. Let's assume it's a nature born, and then this woman is now getting married to a man, and the man now acknowledges that child that the mother, that woman brought into the marriage as a child, where there is no contention from that football star that this is my son. We are saying that that child becomes a legitimate child of that man and can even inherit
this man's wealth.
In this man's wealth. That is
so
where
the original father of the child, if this procedure has been taking place, the original father of the child has no right over the child anymore.
He has no right, but then we are looking at a situation
where he did not come
to contest. Because as we go down the topic, you will find out that there are more scientific ways of proving paternity.
Yes.
There are more ways like what we call the DNA test and all that. Now, supposing they subject themselves to a DNA test, and then that DNA test is a football star that has, you know, that's a different case. So we are now looking primarily at a situation where he constantly says, I am not presenting myself for any test, I am not interested, I am not the father. Let's look at that. And then the woman marries another man who is ready to
take care of
to
the child.
acknowledge that child as his own. We are saying that under that circumstances, that child becomes the legitimate, that father, that man now has provided legitimation to that child. You doubt it? It is happening every day.
Of course, it happens. It happens.
We also have another method, which is adoption.
Okay.
Yes, adoption by the provisions of Child Rights Act. It has permitted states in Nigeria to go into adoption, to allow parents who are willing to adopt. And now, when you are talking about adoption, there are 2 ways or 3 ways you go about it. The first one is if you are married couple, whereby maybe you want to adopt, then you can, the law says you should be from 25 years and above. Then both parties, you and your husband, will approach the court by application. After the application, then you will now be expected to submit your marriage certificate or affidavit of marriage. Then you are also to submit 2 passport photographs for each of you, and then you will also be required to submit after submitting all these items, that is for married couple. Then if it is a single person, a single parent, you should be up to 35 years of age. And then in this situation, you don't need to submit marriage certificate because you're a single person. Then you submit affidavit of age declaration or birth certificate. Then there are 2 passport photographs, and then which will now be inspected.
No, he has to submit a medical certificate of
medical
fitness.
certificate.
You don't give children to adoption to mad
medical
people.
certificate of fitness also is one of those things.
Okay. Do they also get bank details and all of that?
Yeah, they will investigate because they need to know your status.
Yes.
Yes, because it is seen that that child already whom you are going to adopt has suffered some kind of
deprivation,
trauma. Yes. Thank you. So it will not be nice for a poor person to go and adopt such a person. If not, it's going to continue
the
in
suffering.
the same suffering.
Okay.
So
to add to what he has said, you see, there are under the law. You see what you are saying that you submit an application to court. I think it has to do with jurisdiction, which already knows.
Yes.
It has to do with jurisdiction, but in practice, it is the Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Welfare that runs everything. So they have supervisors, they have development officers working with them. Now it is these development officers that you bring this application to. They are the one that will investigate their status. They will investigate, even up to where you stay, where you are living, the kind of life you are living, the lifestyle you are living. Then you are invited for interview. When you have met all the conditions, you have certificate of medical fitness from a government-owned hospital, not from a private. When you have met with all that status, I think it is at that point that they will now make the recommendation for you to adopt the child. I think it is the duty of the court now to now issue you with the legal documents, because a situation can arise. In fact, there was a situation we were discussing yesterday. We lawyers, we hear a lot of things.
Of course.
A woman got pregnant all the way from Enugu. She was in Enugu State. A young lady, she got pregnant in Enugu State, abandoned the parents, ran away from Enugu State to Akwa Ibom State, gave birth to that child in Akwa Ibom State, and then gave the child up for adoption. Whether she collected money, because it's like she collected money from the person that was actually adopting this child. But the process was legal. But the mother who knew, the parents, they knew, life story, life case, the parents who knew that our daughter was pregnant, they were curious about what happened to the pregnancy. So they allowed her. After a while, whether she must have healed from all the trauma of giving birth and all that, they now kept her and questioned her to get the truth. She was the one that now took the parents to Uyo in Akwa Ibom State and informed them where the child is. So the mother was like, any amount that my daughter collected from you, we are ready to pay back. Give us back the child. You see that kind of scenario? So that is why when it comes to adoption, the government, the people, the development officers, the supervisors, everybody is very careful, because the child will not be coming from proper custody, what we call proper custody. It might not have been a child that the parents had abandoned. It might not have been a child that the parents are late and then it doesn't have a support. It might be coming from people who are child hawkers. Children, people who get married, who get pregnant out of wedlock. We are talking about out of wedlock. It exists. They get married out of wedlock and then they disappear off the radar. For the 1 year, you don't see them. In fact, there was a particular hospital I went to take treatment sometimes last year, October. The father of the child, the mother of the child, they all both abandoned the child in the clinic. And then the father, out of pity of the child, used to come and pay the doctor, the owner of that clinic, 100,000 naira to take care of the child. The daughter had run away, said the father mustn't hear that she was pregnant, not to talk of giving birth to a child. So she abandoned that child as at 15 days old and left. So under that kind of circumstance, that child can be given up for adoption. But then don't forget that nature is something you don't cheat. As the Bible has clearly said, it said what you sow is what you reap. Some of these parents, later in life, they don't have children. They cannot even get pregnant, not to talk of giving birth. So they come back to look for those kids. So they trace that child to where last, and then start gathering information as to where that child is. Luckily, that child is alive. They now go after that child. And now this child must have been adopted, given up for legal adoption by the state without suspecting any of those scenarios I have painted. Only to realize that the mother will now come and say, this is my son, this is my daughter. You say, they say, no, I left it in that clinic at that place. You understand? They start tracing. Eventually, you know, in life, you chop and leave person. You don't chop talk and leave person. Eventually, information will come out. Any form of gossip, you don't hide it from people. They will come and say, no, there was a woman that gave birth to and left a child in that clinic. And then they trace it to that doctor, and the doctor said it's true. I gave it to Mr. Okon. They now trace to Mr. Okon. Mr. Okon luckily says that's the child. Then this is the mother. This is the father. Maybe 20 years later, you must have even, in fact, in the case of a man in UK, even send the child to Oxford University.
Yes.
Before the mother now came, after the guy has gone, Oxford University graduated, he now came and said, look, this is not your father. Your father is in Nigeria. So those are the kind of circumstances we are trying to paint in this topic, so that people will be aware and then try as much as possible to get themselves, especially children of Brotherhood of the Cross and Stand, from that kind of scenario.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Well elaborated and well spoken. Anyways, we are actually running out of time. Yeah, because of time, we are going to take a part 2 of this discussion later on. But before we wrap up, because we just have 7 minutes to go, yeah, we're just going to talk about the various means and modes of legitimation and legal implication.
No, rather, please, let us talk about the case study, since you want to. Let's look at the case study.
Okay, we should take the case study.
Yeah, let's take the case study.
Okay, let's take the case study of
and
this
then
topic.
when we come subsequently, we continue.
All right.
Now, the case study was by Barrister Paul Esheyegba.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go straight to read it.
Okay.
He said a 40-year-old Las Vegas cleaner won a child support battle against a 28-year-old millionaire who she never slept with. The name was Jane, who was 36 years old when she stole a used condom from a then 24-year-old tech millionaire's hotel garbage. The guy actually used a condom on some other person and then dropped it in the refuse bin. She inserted the semen inside her vagina and became pregnant with a baby boy who is now 4 years old. During the child support hearing, she actually went to court. Jane confessed that she never slept with the young millionaire and that she impregnated herself with his sperm while she was cleaning his room. He left his bank statement, according to her, this is what she now told the court. He said he left his bank statement on the nightstand in his hotel room, and I saw it when I was cleaning. At the time, I wanted a baby so bad, and I thought it would be better if I had a baby with a rich man. This is what she's telling the court.
Yeah.
The paternity tests were conducted, and the young millionaire is the father. It was by DNA. That young millionaire is the father. The court ordered him to pay the mother of the child $2 million. $2 million. For the 3 years of his son's life he missed. For the 3 years of the son's life he missed.
Yeah.
His lawyer says his client is planning to pursue other legal actions against the mother for stealing his personal belongings. That is his sperm now.
Yes.
For stealing his personal and violating his privacy and property. Meanwhile, Jane had quit the hotel cleaning job and started a few business with her newfound fortune, which is the $2 million.
Yeah.
She still has a full capacity of, full custody of the child, whom she named after the father, the young millionaire. Now the query is, what are the legal issues arising from this legal story?
Okay. That is.
Somebody wrote something very interesting.
Okay.
This is coming from Dr. Frederick Hoho, Justice of the Court of Appeal.
Yeah.
So let's just indulge ourselves. Let's read what he wrote.
Let's hear.
Yes. Now he said, the position is that it is the duty of the courts in every country to help deepen the tenets of the form of government in place in that country. In Nigeria, our form of government is democracy, and it is therefore the duty of our courts to assist in deepening the tenets of democracy in Nigeria. However, the question to address here is whether in Nigeria our courts have actually lived up to that expectation. Your guess is as good as mine. America practices democracy as well, and yet it is also a welfare state. The court is also expected not only to assist in deepening democracy, but also in enforcing the welfarist posture of the American state. In America, homeless people are given accommodation and fed free of charge by the state. Poor and jobless people are placed on monthly allowances and given food stamps at the expense of the state. It is therefore the duty of the state to ensure that the welfareist posture of the state is enforced, and would be contrary to public policy on the part of the court to give judgment contrary to the form of government practiced by America. Now, in the case under discussion, we must understand that in America as well as in Nigeria, in deciding cases that relate to the welfare of a child, the overriding or governing consideration is what is usually in the best interest of that child.
Okay.
Here is a situation in which the biological father of the child is said to be a millionaire and the mother a maid cleaner in a hotel. There is no doubt that what appears to be the interest of the child at this point in time is to get the best that is available to him from his biological parents, who are known by virtue of DNA tests. We will come to that in the process of our discussion. It should be clearly understood that the child was not a party to the theft of the sperm.
Yeah.
That is the position of Dr. Fredo JC.
So he doesn't have any right to be
by which he was conceived. Yes, if anything, he too is a victim.
Yeah.
Of his mother shenanigans. The court, having therefore seen that the biological father of the child has financial backbone to take care of the child, irrespective of the circumstances of his birth, will not shy away from making the appropriate order of what the court considers to be in the best interest of the child. It would have been a different thing if the father of the child is unknown. In that case, the state would have taken up the responsibility of catering to the needs of the child. But why do that when the status of the biological father is known and he has not been seen to openly renege on account of that responsibility? Again, this is not a situation in which the sins of the mother could be visited on the innocent child who did not bring himself into this world. Her conduct in stealing the sperm of the rich man is another kettle of fish which has to be separately treated and appropriately sanctioned. I guess that our employers are likely to have relieved her of her appointment and then probably prosecuted in a criminal court for stealing and sent to jail if need arises. But you will agree that that has nothing to do with the overriding consideration where the welfare of the child is concerned. The court therefore enforced the tenets of the welfarist nature of the American state and did not reward anyone for stealing. I am of the firm view that the same verdict would have been given by a Nigerian court where appropriate arguments are canvassed before the court, as the law of the welfare of the child is same in Nigeria as you will have it in America, England, and other common law jurisdictions. That was what the learned jurists had to say. Maybe for lack of time, maybe we will put it on hold at this stage, and then next we meet, we continue from where we continue
from there. Yes, so that is a case that was just read out. So next sitting, when we come, we're going to go into the legal aspect and how to handle this kind of issue and the proper way for it to be judged and so on. Anyways, I really want to appreciate you all for your time. I also want to appreciate Barrister Paul Sheibe for his time. Thank you so much for coming on today's show, and please don't forget, we are talking about legitimacy, legitimation, and wills. Next week again, when we come, we are going to go into the main aspects and the cases and all that it takes to wrap up this topic. I really want to appreciate you all for coming again today to share your knowledge. Barrister Osim, thank you for coming. Barrister Kenneth, thank you for coming. And Barrister Paul, thank you so much. We appreciate your knowledge. Please, we'll be expecting you again next week to summarize on this particular topic. Barrister Paul, are you there?
Next week. First.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Bless you too. All right. Thank you, beloved audience, for staying on. Till we meet again next time, remain blessed. My name is Joy Dambo. Bye for now.